Hey, Leslie.
What, Stephen?
Hey, there's a big storm coming.
I know.
Do we have milk?
I think we got milk.
Do we have bread?
We got bread.
Do we have toilet paper?
Yes, we got toilet paper.
Awesome, great. We don't have to go to the store. Well, hey, does that sound familiar? Well, in this video, we are going to talk about the weather here in Virginia, and I'm going to tell you all about the storm that's coming today. So before we do that, let's go ahead and get started right now. Hi, my name's Stephen, and along with my wife Leslie, we get phone calls and emails all the time from folks just like you who are looking to sell a home here in Virginia's beautiful mountains and valleys or to purchase a home. And as real estate agents, we love to get those calls and we love to help everybody who calls. So if you're looking to move in 9 days, 90 days, whenever it is, call us, text us, email us. That information's all down below, and we'll be happy to help you to provide you with an outstanding real estate experience in purchasing or selling a home. Oh, by the way, if you like our YouTube channel, we'd be honored if you click on that subscribe button so that you can keep that up to date about all of the information here in Virginia's mountains and valleys in regards to real estate, but additionally to a lot of the fun things that go on here as well. So now, as I said, Leslie and I often get the question asked to us, what's the weather like there? Now, obviously, this is people that don't live here in the area, but we get asked that question quite a bit. What is the weather like there? Well, so what is the weather like here? Well, that's a good question. And for the sake of this video, we're going to be talking about the Shenandoah Valley and Piedmont regions just east of Virginia's Blue Ridge Mountains. Now, I've heard people from all over the country say this very cliche quote, well, if you don't like the weather, just hang around for a few minutes and it'll change. Well, that's true of most places in the United States, depending upon which type of weather you're talking about. When talking about weather in Virginia's mountains and valleys, you first have to say that we have 4 very distinct seasons, and that sets us apart from several places in the United States that seem to be lacking those seasons from time to time. For example, the first year that Leslie and I were married, we taught school and lived in Idaho Falls, Idaho. Now, while it was an amazing place to be, we were about 2.5 hours from Yellowstone National Park, and you could see the Grand Tetons from about 10 minutes just north of town. You know, while it was a great place to be and we enjoyed our year there, but it seemed like it went from just hot to cold. And because it was a high desert climate, there were very few deciduous trees, and so we really missed the spring and fall color changes. Of course, that's one of the most amazing things about Virginia's mountains and valleys. Because of our location here, the foliage, and when the seasons change, so do the colors and the rural landscape that surrounds the area. In the springtime, we see spring when it bursts forth with many colorful flowers and budding trees. We see the light green hues of the grass and the trees. It signals as a new time of year has come. Likewise, in the fall, the changing of the colors is truly a spectacle to behold. As a matter of fact, people from all over Virginia and many parts of the world really flock to Skyline Drive in the Shenandoah National Park to experience this gorgeous beauty. Of course, living at the base of the mountains in the Piedmont region or up in the Shenandoah Valley provides for some amazing views as well. It's so fun to watch the green tint in the spring make its way up the mountain until it's all green, and to watch the colors at the top of the mountain work their way down in the fall till everything is colorful all the way down into the valley floor. Summers in Virginia, especially in the Shenandoah Valley, are more moderate than many places in the country, making for fantastic outdoor summertime activities. And of course, let's not forget winter. With a more moderate climate, Virginia's mountains and valleys gets enough snow to enjoy, yet not so much that it's all you'll see all winter. This provides for some beautiful snow scenes, many snow scenes, and many times you'll just see it snow on top of the mountain. We get a little rain down here in the valley, but then the top of the mountains will be covered with snow, with ribbons of snow going across as the skies clear, and that allows folks in the valley or in the Piedmont region just to continue doing their many normal activities that we all enjoy. The seasons of Virginia's mountains and valleys and their ever-changing landscape is truly a sight to behold. Now, at the beginning of the video, you saw me teasingly, frantically making sure that we were stocked up on what we needed for our great January snowstorm. You know, it never ceases to amaze me that so many people here in our area, but all across the country, flock to the grocery store before the big storm hits. And you know, the grocery store shelves go bare, and if you're not early to the game, getting to the store, you'll have to buy that more expensive bread and milk, and, you know, it just is what it is. A lot of times that happens around the country. But also, by the way, you know, Leslie and I, we usually don't run to a store in a frenzy because we've been prepared growing up in a more winter climate, and we drive in it as well. So, inner peace. But as I mentioned, anyway, so since we've mentioned the big winter storm that was supposed to come in, let's start by talking about the winters here in Virginia's mountains and valleys. Now, there are multiple factors that influence the type of weather that we get here. Two of the main factors, though, are the latitude, or how far north or south something is, and the elevation of the location as well. Now, first of all, in general, as you probably already picked up, I love where Virginia's mountains and valleys are located. They're not too far north where you get snow continually throughout the winter, but they're not too far south where all you get is rain and you get very little snow. As a matter of the fact, our area receives a little bit less than the national average snowfall of about 28 inches. So as you can see, of the major towns in the Shenandoah Valley along with Charlottesville, this is about how much snow annually falls in the area. Now, Harrisonburg gets a little bit more than the other places, as you can see, and that's due to being a little further north, but also being at a higher elevation than in Winchester. Additionally, when you look at the next column, you see, and this is an important fact, you see the total amount of days that snow covers the ground. Now, that's only about a week and a half to 3 weeks on average, depending upon what town you live or where you live in the valley or in the Piedmont region. And that really allows for a lot of outdoor winter activities, as well as just general activities like golf, for example. Now, for those of you who want snow on the ground, there are two wonderful ski resorts right near our area here. Massanutten Ski Resort is 30 minutes east of Harrisonburg, and along with skiing, it has an outdoor water park that's a big hit for families and kids throughout the winter. Of course, there's plenty of other activities as well that are going to keep you busy. Now, south of Massanutten, you'll find Wintergreen Resort in Nelson County. Now, Wintergreen is at a little higher elevation than Massanutten, and it's an amazing ski resort as well, with many activities in addition to, of course, skiing. Now, if you want to know more about Wintergreen, watch these videos here where I tell you more about the many of its amenities. So, in order for us to get snow in Virginia's mountains and valleys, it all depends upon cold air coming down from the north, right? Okay, but when do we get more snow? Well, there's a saying here in the area that says our big snows always come up from the south. Now, that's different than from where Leslie and we grew up in the Midwest. So what happens is that when this cold air is in place, it comes down from the north, it's in place, and the warm moisture comes up from the south, and if it's cold enough, we get snow. That's where most of it comes from. It usually doesn't come from the west, although we can get snow that comes in from a clipper out of the west. Now, sometimes we'll get larger snow totals in what we call a nor'easter, but most of the time, though, the nor'easters usually really hit Pennsylvania and northward into the New England states. Okay, so I gotta admit, I'm a little bit of a weather geek here, so please indulge me, but as you can see in this radar loop, this is what a classic nor'easter storm that comes up the East Coast from the south looks like. If it's in the winter, we have a chance of getting larger snowfall amounts. Now, depending upon how warm or cold that air is that's in place here, that can determine whether or not we get snow, sleet, rain, or just rain, and it all depends on how much warm air and cold air is there. Now, for example, the storm that was predicted for today, here's what the forecast was on Wednesday. You look at this, wow, 5 to 8 inches of snow. Now, actually, a couple days before that, it was 8 to 12 inches. Also, notice the differences in predicted high temperatures. Now, here's the forecast yesterday, the day before the snow was to arrive. Now see how the temperatures have changed. They'd risen just a couple of degrees. Now, here's a map of a prediction from the day before that shows you where the cold air was. And as you can see, the cold air was definitely in the higher elevations in the Appalachian Mountains to the west, but it just really didn't come down very far south into Virginia. Now, Winchester was really the only place where the cold air was in place. And as a matter of fact, here's a radar image from about 10 o'clock on the day of the storm. You can see that because of that cold air being in place, Winchester got mostly all snow all day long. And the snow tapered off the further south you came, with Lexington getting mostly rain. Here's what we got in Augusta County near Stanton. You can see these pictures here, and yep, lots of freezing rain in the morning, changed to rain in the afternoon, and back to freezing rain at the end when that cold air wrapped around from the west. By noon the next day, it was all melted off, and we were back to business as usual. Well, so much for our big winter storm, but we'll see what happens next time. When they predict an inch of snow, we'll probably get a foot, right? That old poor old weather guy, maybe he'll get it right next time. We'll have to wait and see.
Hey, are we out of the woods yet? Are we out of the woods yet? Are we out of the woods? Are we in the clear yet? Are we in the clear yet? Are we in the clear yet? Are we in the clear? Well, I can't promise you that. Why you gotta be so mean?
But anyway, moving on. We've got the other major factor that contributes to different weather conditions here in Virginia's mountains and valleys, and that is elevation. Now, to begin with, you can see on this map where I've taken an altitude measurement right on Interstate 81. Now, as you can see, Winchester is the lowest part of the Shenandoah Valley. Now, the valley continues to rise until we get to near the town of Rainfall, where it drops fairly sharply down to Lexington. Now, it's interesting. There have been times, several days, where we've had snow in Augusta County, near Stanton and Waynesboro, with even more down in Rainfall. But by the time I left and drove through Rainfall, and by the time I got down to Lexington, they'd received no snow at all, and I actually played golf. Now, think about that one, golfers. Snow on the ground at your house, but travel 35 miles and no snow and play golf. Well, it's not the case every time, but typically the air is cooler in the higher elevations, of course, which makes for differences of precipitation in the winter and differences of temperature also to a small degree in the summer. Here's an example using Augusta County when it comes to elevation. As you can see, the altitude changes radically coming down from a typical elevation in the Appalachian Mountains into the valley with Stanton and Waynesboro, and then rising back up into the Blue Ridge Mountains. So now let's tie that into our summer weather here in Virginia's mountains and valleys as well. Now, as I said, this elevation can affect temperatures. Now you can see here, this graphic has the average high and low monthly temperatures for the 5 major towns that we've been talking about. I've also circled the 2 coldest and warmest months. Now notice that the temperature is usually a few degrees cooler in Harrisonburg and Stanton than it is at the lower places like Lexington and Charlottesville. Additionally, look at the average number of days each year that the temperature rises above 90 degrees. Even though Winchester is further north, it has a few more days above 90 degrees than Harrisonburg and Stanton. Now, of course, other things can affect the temperature and weather differences in Virginia's mountains and valleys, but elevation does have a significant effect. Overall, though, in most cases, the temperature, especially in the Shenandoah Valley, seldom climbs above 90 degrees. As you can see, not very many times at all. Additionally, the nights in the valley tend to be a few degrees cooler than in Charlottesville and other non-mountainous areas in Virginia. Now, not only that, but the temperatures tend to be warmer in the winter and cooler in the summer than other locations that you may think of that may surprise you. For example, the winter is warmer than both Chicago and New York, even though it's at a higher elevation in the mountains. You get that, right? Okay, maybe those places are further north, so you'd expect it to be warmer, right? But it's also cooler in the summer than both Chicago and New York, even though it is much further south. This is a great example of why I love the climate and our seasons here in our beautiful mountains and valleys. So you might be thinking, how much rain do you get in the area? Well, that's another great thing. We usually have about an average amount of rainfall in our area compared to the rest of the United States. Winchester usually receives the least on average of these towns here, and Charlottesville has the most. Again, this is affected by multiple things, and we can have dry spells, of course, and our mountains and valleys are usually well watered, though. But it's not overly so. It's not that we have rain all the time or it's dry all the time. Usually on days when we have rain, though, we have scattered thunderstorms that pop up around mid-afternoon and move to the east. And many times they'll grow stronger as they go over the Blue Ridge Mountains and down into the coastal plain. And, that's another thing about the area. If you live in the Midwest or in the South especially, you probably have more violent storms and even tornadoes than the area here. Now, we can have violent storms and weather here and even tornadoes here, but usually they're not as strong or they don't last as long as the tornadoes in the Midwest and in the South. I found this. Here's an interactive website that shows all the tornadoes in Virginia since 1950. It's the area that I've highlighted is in the Shenandoah Valley, and of course, just to the east of that is Charlottesville. And you look at that, that's really not too many. Now, you're going to find more as you get down into the coastal plain of Virginia, but still nothing compared to, say, Alabama or especially Tornado Alley, right? Like Topeka, Kansas. But like I say, usually our weather is not as violent as other parts of the country, and it's not as violent as in the South or in the Midwest. I could probably talk more about the weather here in the area, but unless you're a weather geek like me, you're probably saying, I get it. You've usually got nice weather. And I would say, yes, that's so true. And as I said at the beginning of the video, the 4 distinct seasons that we have here in Virginia's mountains and valleys are absolutely amazing. And the ever-changing landscape gives so many variations with something new to experience throughout the entire year. So maybe you're thinking about moving to our beautiful mountains and valleys, or maybe you already live here. In either case, if you're looking to buy a home or sell a home, Leslie and I would be more than happy to help. But we count on you to call us, text us, or email us so that we can start that process. And when you do, we'd be honored to. And like I say, whether you're looking to live in the valley here or in the Piedmont area, there's so many areas here that just have so much beauty and good weather, honestly, for the most part, that it's just a joy and a pleasure to live here. But like I say, if you're interested, call us, text us, email us, and hopefully we'll see what happens with that next storm, and we'll see if we need to go out and buy bread or milk, or if we're going to be snowed in for a total of 2 weeks. Okay, 2 hours. But like I said, call us if you need us. But until next time, we will see you around town.